What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? This is Hav here, one of your hosts from the Real Fan Review, coming out of Long Island, New York. With me today, we got our man in the chair, Al.
How's it going, everybody?
Al's not too happy, everybody. He's hiding it right now with a little fake smile, but he's not too happy right now.
Yeah.
And with us today, we also got my brother, your brother, B.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing tonight?
Oh, B, I don't know if they're doing good because you're not either.
I'm not doing good either.
And if you want to know why we're miserable curmudgeons today, the DC Slate got revealed today. So today, guys, we're going to talk about James Gunn revealing his DC Slate. Shout out to Brandon for pushing the podcast to Tuesday, because that's the reason we got to see the DC Slate. And we're also going to talk about the incredible, beautiful episode of The Last of Us, episode 3, that was came out on Sunday night. So we'll finish up with The Last of Us. But first, we're here about the movies, and that's what we talk about mostly. We are the Real Fan Review, not the TV review. So we're going to talk about this DC slate that James Gunn just revealed today, fellas. So let's get right to the DC slate and see what you guys think. In case you don't know about the DC slate, I'll tell you right now what is on there. This is James Gunn, part of his 10-year plan. This is the beginning part, which he calls, I believe it's Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters,
Yeah.
Yeah, so chapter 1, or their phase 1, it's Gods and Monsters. So here we go. The first thing they're coming out with is something called Creature Commandos. It's an animated film or an animated show. Then we have Waller, which is, I'm not convinced it's a real show. I think it's an HBOMax show, Waller, which is with the team of Peacemaker.
The team of Peacemaker.
The team from Peacemaker, which is weird, but I will get more into that. Then we got our first movie, which is coming out July 11th, 2025. So we're a few years away. We're at least 2 years and a couple of months away from the first movie, which will be Superman Legacy. So at least I'm good to hear that part. The next show that's coming out is going to be for Brandon, The Lanterns, which is going to be starring Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan in a kind of a buddy cop show on HBOMax. Then the next movie coming out in the DC universe, the new DCU, is going to be called The Authority, with a bunch of people I don't know. Then we have another TV show called Paradise Lost about Themyscira. That's the home of Wonder Woman. So I'm hoping that's a kind of a Wonder Woman movie or something, or a TV show.
No, it's before Wonder Woman.
Oh, before Wonder Woman.
She's
fantastic.
Around, yeah.
Some shit I don't really, something none of us asked for. Great. Then we have The Brave and the Bold, which is the first Batman film that's going to be coming out. It's supposed to feature Damian Wayne. Okay, that's the his son Robin. So we'll see how that goes. We have a Booster Gold, which everyone's been asking for the longest time. Booster Gold TV show. Then we have another movie, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Okay, and then we have lastly a horror movie coming out from the DCU, Swamp Thing. So if you're saying to yourself, half those things I didn't ask for or care for, we feel you. However, I don't want to be like this old, like, hey, where's the Flash? Where's Aquaman? And all this stuff. But listen, we have to give it a chance. We have to. I don't know how to explain. Like, none of us asked for Guardians of the Galaxy when they first came out, right? But we were pleasantly surprised. So with James Gunn at the helm, I'm going to give it the best, like, I trust you. But that leash is short. That leash is so short.
That shit is retractable.
Because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think that I know what he's going for. He's going to surprise us and give us things that we didn't expect, and also surprise us with stuff. But to say that I was looking for bangers, like hits, like, and here's the new Cyborg, the new Green Arrow, the new Batman, not the Brave and the Bold, because when you say the Brave and the Bold, I think of the cartoon, so it's just like a couple of things here and there. Al, tell me, dog, what you thought about these DCU slate. Were you impressed? Was it underwhelming? What was it for you?
Yeah, underwhelming is an understatement.
Wow, understatement. Wow.
Yeah, because everybody's talking about a reboot, and first of all, it doesn't feel like a full reboot because he's not committing to that Aquaman is gone, Wonder Woman's gone.
Right.
He keeps saying, oh, well, we may still use them in some capacity, maybe in one of these Elseworlds movies that he might be making.
Right.
But, he conveniently is keeping his wife and her team around, which was intermixed with the Henry Cavill Superman, the Ben Affleck Batman. So to get rid of those two, but you're keeping your wife and her team around, then you didn't create a new universe. You're not you're not reestablishing everything if you're keeping, because Amanda Waller is the one who brought Superman back to go face Black Adam in the Black Adam.
Right.
So how are you redoing everything when you're still keeping a part of that universe? And then when you look at what he's putting out, there's no continuity to anything. He seems to be picking and choosing other genres, other shows, and saying, oh, yeah, that worked. Because you got, from what I understand, that Lantern show is going to be based, like have a true detective type theme for how that show is going to play out.
Right.
Then you got the show for the Wonder Woman show. What was it called? The Mysterio Paradise Lost?
Paradise Lost.
That's a pre-Wonder Woman show, and it's going to have like a Game of Thrones type style and theme. So none of this seems consistent. I mean, even the Marvel movies with all the heroes and characters they were talking about, there was a consistent tone to the shows and movies. This sounds like he's just throwing everything against the wall for chapter 1 and looking, I guess, to see what sticks.
Right.
Because, you're going to have a Batman and Robin. So you're focusing on that dynamic. So how does that relate to the rest of the DC chapter that you're trying to create? You got a Superman legacy, which means you're going to a younger Superman, which is why you have to get rid of Henry Cavill. But we've already seen and heard those stories. We want the new stories of him and his prime, which you could have had you kept Cavill.
Right.
Because you're still keeping Batman, so there's going to be 2 Batmans. One is an else. There's too much confusion. It looks like he's trying to do too much.
Right.
And it doesn't sound like this whole grand thought out scheme that he could have. If you're going to start from scratch. And I felt like he could have come up with a more consistent entry to this chapter 1. And then he names it Gods and Creatures or whatever it is. And I don't see where that theme applies to this whole chapter based on the projects he's listing. So
I hear you.
I left this thinking, like, I have to completely get. There was nothing exciting about it. I'm not looking forward to, and even the Superman legacy. If Superman is my favorite character, I'm not even looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So, like, this has to be like a completely, oh shit, I really wasn't. Every one of these shows has got to win the award in next year's Reallys, because I'm not expecting any of these shits to be good.
Yeah, especially with the starting out with Creature Commandos. That's the start of this new DCU, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna watch it. But this is gonna be your start, so this is gonna tell me a lot about what to expect. Because also in this video, he says that these animated features are gonna have the voice actors, and those actors that are playing the voices of these characters are gonna be the real life interpretation as well in the movies. So these creatures or whatever they are going to be playing into these movies down the road. It's kind of interesting and a little weird to see how this all goes about. But before we get into anything else, B, what about you, man? What was your thoughts overall on the video of James Gunn talking about the DCU slate?
It was just a big mixed bag for me.
Yeah.
First off, his explanation of everything else, the whole Elseworlds thing, and saying, oh, coming up this year, I know you guys are excited. We're finally going to have Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Incredible. I love that movie. The Flash is coming out. I love that movie. He just keeps going on and saying, oh, but the Flash is going to reset everything. But then we have the Blue Beetle coming afterwards, which is set nowhere. And then we have the last Aquaman, which apparently is not going to have any relation back to the everything else that was reset before the reset. And so it was a little bit of a mix there alone. I kind of felt like we're just trying to see what sticks. And then he started going through the releases, and I will say I did like his explanation for the use of animated features, because it saves a lot of money and there's a great way of telling stories. I am a huge fan of the DCEU movies. Those cartoon movies are, I think, actually the best movies. If I were to compare them to some of Marvel's cartoon movies, they blow Marvel out of the water. They are the best storytelling. Like the whole DC Justice League movies are incredible. Leading up to Justice League Dark Apocalypse War blew me away that those were even movies that happened, and those were cartoons. And I love the fact that he's trying to utilize them as a way of not just saving money, but as a way of building on the world. And I said, that's smart, because you can do so much there that you can bring to the big screen and have a better explanation, because you saved money doing it, but you got better storytelling out of it, better animation, the X, Y, and Z. So I love that. But then Creature Commandos was like, I don't really want to see Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula. I don't really want to see that. Whether it's cool or not, I'll still watch it to see if it is, but it's not on my list. Gods and monsters, I guess they're the monsters with Swamp Thing, and the gods are going to be the Justice League gods, Superman, Batman. That's the whole thing. I thought they were relating it back to the Gods and Monster comic, in which our heroes were actually gods and monsters, like Batman was a vampire, and so I thought that's where he was going, and I thought that was interesting. But then Waller, I completely agree with Al. I thought this was their way of saying, we're going to keep Peacemaker without calling it Peacemaker.
We'll call it Waller.
We'll call it Waller, but we're going to use Viola Davis because we all love her, which we do. I love Viola Davis, but if you're telling me that this Waller is different from the last Waller, which is different from the last Waller, it's the same person, And so, what are we resetting the Wallerverse? So
it's kind of crazy, very, very crazy, man. And according to what he was saying in the video, you hinted at it before, which is apparently the Flash resets everything. Now, the way he's hinting or the way he's saying it, I'm wondering what it is we're going to see at the end of this movie that makes it go into this new DCU. Now, Brandon, there was people talking online saying that that's what happened in the real comic book section, where Flashpoint happened and we got the new 52.
The new 52. Yep, that's exactly it. And Justice League Dark Apocalypse War reset all the animated movies. So the new movies with that new cell shading is based off of where we went next. This is the new 52 for them.
Gotcha. All right. So, listen, this could work. But again, my issue now is that I don't know, maybe I expected something more, something different, something more recognizable, something more impactful. Had he ended with and this is all going to lead up to the first event in Gods and Creatures, which is the DCU version of whatever story, whether it's Apocalypse or something or whatever. But it just felt like, again, the Authority. I've heard about these guys, but how do you explain the superpowers of the Authority, of the different characters in there, with then Superman, and then there's no other beings just yet? And again, this is that issue of having to trust that they're going to build it right. What's the explanation for there being superheroes and villains in this world? And I guess we're going to see that because to start off with Creature Commandos, I'm you're going to have to explain in Creature Commandos where they came from. They just existed, So
or
Superman
else,
just exists in this world.
I feel like he's going off of the whole, we know this is a comic book world and you know their origins. So here they are. And we're going to build stories. That's where it seems like, why do we have old Batman again?
Yeah.
You told me we're starting over.
Why are we dealing with an older Batman?
Why do we have old Batman who has 4 Robins at this point? And we're going to see some of them in the show. So now we have old Batman. We have an old actor, or supposedly older actor, who's going to commit to a 10-year contract of movies, potentially. And you just told Dave Bautista, who wanted to play Bane, that he's too old. But it sounds like Bane would be just around the right age if this is our Batman.
Right. Perfect timing, right? So let's all pick one, like, of the positives out of all of this. So for me, the positive, I'm looking at the list and I'm like, I guess the one positive is the brave and the bold. For me, I guess there's an opportunity to see Robin back in the world of movies. You know, the last Robin we got was Chris O'Donnell back for Batman Forever, and the last Batman freeze. You know, it's hopefully a cool way to see Robin on the movie screen, but depending on how they make it, do they make it realistic? Do they make it a crazy world? Depending on all of that, it's going to let us know like how they're going to handle, you know, Robin in the movie. So that's my one positive, is the brave and the bold is something I'm looking forward to, especially when he said we're going to see the Bat family. So I'm assuming we're going to see Nightwing and you know, maybe Red Hood and some other characters as well. One of the positives for you on this slate?
Surprisingly, like I was hoping it was going to be the Superman movie, but honestly, that's the one I'm afraid is going to depress me the most. So actually, the one I'm looking forward to is the Lanterns show to see, because if you're going to do True Crime, no, what was it based on? True Detective.
True Detective.
Yeah, that was like, you know, a serious show on HBO. So if that's the concept that you're following for the show, but using the Green Lanterns as your main characters, that's the one that's got me interested in how they're going to portray that. And supposedly the mystery that they're investigating in that show, to your point, is what leads to the greater mystery that this chapter is going to supposedly encompass.
Right.
So for that to be the show that's going to reveal what's the supposing overarching story, that's the one that's got me the most interested. I mean, I would love for it to be the Superman one, but unfortunately, I'd have to go with the Lanterns.
Yeah. Even a better title than Superman Legacy. You know, Superman and the world against Brainiac or some shit. Like, I don't know. It's just not Superman Legacy. Not yet. You know what I mean? Like,
we don't know him.
I don't know. Just, what legacy?
And then again, and if you're going to this overarching story, why are you again going back to a Superman who maybe already exists, but is not at his prime? Like, why do we keep avoiding that prime Superman? When
I want to see it.
When you could have used that to bring in what's his name, Galactus, and all these other guys that they were talking about bringing in. Like, you could have not, like, if you wanted to get away from that Snyderverse, there's still so many opportunities where you could have somewhat reset stories, used the same actors who've already ingrained themselves as those characters with their fans, and just gone with a different story, a different direction, or give them like a different backstory based on this reset. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. No, to eliminate some actors and not all.
Yeah,
it was like half-assed. Yeah,
it does, man. It does. B, what's one of your positives out of the DC slate there?
I actually have to agree. I think the Lantern show, it kind of goes off of what the idea I gave a while back in a couple podcasts ago about, I feel like the Green Lantern should be the one to set all of this off. And when his description of the Lantern show, he said that the Lanterns were going to be trying to figure out what is actually going to be the main thing of this whole first chapter. So they're going to be diving into what's going to end up being the overall problem. And so I'm excited to see how they play a whole thing into it. Like Al said, is it going to be Apocalypse with Darkseid, or is it going to be something else? You know, and so I'm excited for that. I'm a little mad that we get Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. I'd prefer to have Hal Jordan first, you know, and then get some more down the line. But like I said, I feel like we're just kind of being thrown characters, and they're like, hey, now we have characters. Sorry, no origins, but here's stories. So
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it's like it's so weird. I don't know what I exactly expected, but I didn't expect that. And again, I guess because of all the the weird offshoots, again, Creature Commandos, The Authority, Paradise Lost. Yeah, Booster Gold has, always been a little bit of a comedian and a funny thing that people wanted to see. But Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, okay, I almost feel like Supergirl before Wonder Woman. Like there's no Flash, no Aquaman, and I get it. You just probably came from those movies. You don't want to go back into those worlds right away, but I don't know, man. It feels like it's missing something, man. It really does. Maybe like a Justice League movie at the end of that would have been nice. But again, there's still time. And again, we have to give James Gunn a shot. Nobody asked for Guardians of the Galaxy, and look what he did with it. So it's kind of like he's earned his right to make it, because he also did that Suicide Squad movie that was incredible. And he also did that horror movie where he was a fake Superman. That movie was pretty funny and cool. So I got to give him a chance. I will hold my true feelings of right now. I'll hold it down and be like, relax, don't worry. He's in good hands. It's in good hands, DC. But yeah, man, yeah, not the most happiest I've been looking at a slate there. So
No.
Not like leaving fucking Comic-Con like they're making Blade again. What the fuck? Kang, Secret Wars. Like, like I want to leave. I remember, do you guys remember that Marvel one where they went over the lineup for phase 2 and 3? Jesus.
Do you remember when they gave us the
War.
fake out with Civil
Serpent
War?
Society?
It was Serpent Society. That was
Serpent
nuts.
Society. Infinity War. Oh man, part 1 and part 2. Yeah, man. So listen, we'll give it a shot there, of course, and we got our fingers crossed and hoping for the best with James Gunn. And best of luck to you, sir. Keep writing, keep doing your thing, and hopefully we get some good stuff. And you'll hear us talk about those movies and telling you how good or bad those movies are. So can't wait to see the first movie, even though it's like 2 years away. We're still waiting for it, so we'll be here waiting for that. So hey, let's get into now what the reason people have been watching our podcast. People have been lining up, subscribing, downloading.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys, man. You guys are amazing. I don't know if I'm trying to like not talk about this episode because it gets me emotional. So let's get
got
into
me by surprise.
Oh, dude, I looked at my wife sideways the whole night and the next day. And I just looked at her and go, "You're unbelievable." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "You just will never love me like Bill." You'll never look at me like Frank looks at Bill. Anyway, let's talk about The Last of Us episode 3, man. Just came out this past Sunday, man. Another fantastic episode, and kind of answered the questions. Are comic book, are video games supposed to be adapted line for line, script for script, visual for visual? And you got your answer of, nah, man. You just got to have good writers and a good story, man. B, man, take me away, man. What was your overall thoughts on episode 3 there of The Last of Us?
I thought it was incredible. I the same. I told my fiance that she didn't love me because I now know what love looks like. And this ain't it.
This ain't it.
This ain't it.
This ain't it. She'll never love you like a man could.
I will have to say, I mean, I don't know if this is spoilers. It's based off what we're already talking about.
Go for it, man. We're talking about spoilers, man.
I was cracking up because she had walked in the scene where they first kissed, and she was like, "There are two men with big burly beards making out on screen. What the fuck are you watching?" And I was like, I can't explain.
Hold on one second. This is HBOMax.
It was a video game, I swear. What kind of fucking video game?
Yeah, there's definitely scenes and movie parts that you're hoping that your wife is not like watching you look at this, because I got the headphones on when I'm watching it, so all she's seeing is visuals. So I'm glad she's like fully knocked the fuck out on NyQuil. So, oh man, how about you, Al? Man, what was your overall thoughts there on the episode 3 there?
Yo, kid, at first I didn't know what was happening. Like, I didn't know who these characters were. I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
You know, you see the guy in the ground, and he comes out. First of all, the fact that he was a living in his mom's basement kind of guy.
Right.
Yeah, he was a survivalist, but still lived in his mom's basement.
Right.
So to see that kind of character come out and the way it plays out through the rest of the story, I'm like, wow. And the fact of how they changed it
Right.
from the game, from what I understand, like you said, this is some of the changes that you can make while staying true to the game, but making it more adaptable for TV. So, I'm nothing against the love story that they told,
Right.
but usually I get a little squeamish. I'm like, all right, I can't watch this. I'll fast forward, whatever. I'm not
Right.
against it, but
Yeah.
but just watching it play out, I was like, yo, he just went in. Like I'm.
my man's got some riz.
And then it just became more funny for me to watch it because it's like, the world has ended around them, and they're just focused on themselves right now. To the point where I couldn't help but laugh when the guy said, "This is going to be your for the realies. Restore this line." When he's sitting there eating, and he goes, "Go take a shower."
What's the manliest shit you ever heard?
Oh my god! Go take a shower.
Bill, go take
I was
a
like,
shower.
no, this is supposed to be like, for everybody to watch. He's telling them to take a shower. You know what that means. Come on.
Go clean yourself. Go clean yourself. Yeah, man. I gotta tell you, man, I think that one of the more beautiful things that I think of like today's society, with as much crazy and fucked up shit that's going on in this world in the last 2 years, 3 years, plus whatever's going on right now in this world, I find it so kind of like, wow, are we at the point where shit doesn't matter anymore? Because there wasn't a lot of negativity about the homosexuality of the episode. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I thought it was beautiful to watch, and I thought it was something that everyone should see because there was so many different ways that you could take it. Like when they showed the "Don't Tread on Me" and this man with a burly beard and this thing, the last thing you're thinking is that he's into another man, and then sure enough, in the most beautiful way that they kind of like discovered each other. It's just like, wow, what a story. And the first thing I thought was, man, they're gonna rip this a new one online and all this stuff like that. And so much against that. I didn't see any of that, honestly. If anything, I keep hearing how great everyone thought the episode was and how beautiful it was. And I go, are we there? This is fucking great. Like, about damn time.
Did a video game show bring us there?
Yeah. It was great to again, beautiful to see. And again, it was eye-opening as well. You know what I mean? Because it was like the beautiful part of their relationship was that when you think about the world that they were in and the chances that they were going to find each other and like that it happened. Again, beautiful, man. I love the episode, man. I thought it was perfect. Let's talk about the beginning of the episode though, because to be honest with you, when the show did not open with a prologue with the preview of like what happened in the past or something like that, I was like, oh, come on. Like, because the last two episodes, the first and the second one, that beginning was always like scary. It was like telling of what was going to happen and all this. And it kind of went straight to, hey, this is what's going on now after Tess passed away and Joel and Ellie are on the move still. And to see that it did still have a chance to go into the past, man, was kind of crazy. I think what was cool was well, let's talk about it's not kind of cool, but interesting was Ellie's reaction going downstairs under the basement of the store, and she sees the infected. I think they called it a stalker down there, just stuck in the thing. And the fact that she went up to it and still like kind of like there was something morbid about the way she handled that. Like she just put a knife to the thing's eye and then killed it. I mean, Al, what was your thoughts with that?
Yeah, it's showing that she's. I don't know. Again, not having played the game, I don't know what they're exploring with that. But she seems to be a little off because if you think back to episode 1, she seemed to be like enthralled when Joel was beating that guy to death. And then here you have her going up to this, in essence, helpless, I guess, mold character, and she slices it open to see if it felt pain or to enjoy it feeling pain. And then when it didn't, it seemed like she got mad and then killed it. So it's like, I don't know if her character had that kind of like anger or, what is it? I don't know, almost like a fetish, like where she enjoyed violence.
Right.
Because that's what I seem to be seeing, like them building with her. So I don't know if she becomes a violent person in the game or if that's one aspect that they're going to bring out more in this show, because she seemed to be enjoying that. And then when she came back, she didn't even tell Joel that that thing was down there.
Not at all. Didn't even mention, just like, nah, you said there was nothing down there. Found some pads, dude.
Found some tampons. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, dude. I mean, tell me about that, because to me, watching her do that, there, like Al just said, there's a side to her that we're not seeing, or it's kind of creepy. It's like she's almost into the violence a little bit. Again, that first episode when Joel's beating the shit out of the security guard, she's behind him looking and almost looked like she's smiling.
Yeah,
then we have this scene.
go
For it.
I would say, in the video game, she's that prone to violence too. She's offered a gun in a different way in the game, and so like it's this intrigue with violence, but there's also this big intrigue with like wanting to know how to use guns and such. She's just someone who never really had school, never had any formal, and so a lot of her life has been on the other side of violence. And so when she's now on the opposite side, getting to inflict or be a part of the giving of it, she finds that enjoyment of what was kind of happened to her. In a sense, she was tortured, she was this, she was that. Now I give it back, or I can protect myself. I've got a gun, I've got a knife, and so it's interesting how she develops with a kind of a knack for violence, and soon you're going to see like a knack of fighting too.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it just comes across like we're leading towards something big, and the fact that she keeps asking for a goddamn gun every episode, it's like Joel's gonna get enough. Like, dude, just stop with the goddamn gun, please. Yeah, and then this is the part that also kind of freaked me out a little bit. Was they're on this trail after they get some supplies and stuff, and they're walking, they're talking about like planes crashing. You see a plane in the background, and she goes, she's surprised that he ever was in one. He's like, yeah, it's overcrowded. Like he's an old curmudgeon like us, Al. He's complaining about that, and then he says, like, listen, we should take a different way to walk because there's something I don't want you to see. So it's like, well, you shouldn't have told me that. Now I want to see it.
Yeah.
And it's a mass grave there. That's kind of crazy, because according to Joel, Fedra soldiers apparently couldn't bring everyone to the quarantine zone because they were either overpacked or there was too many people to put in the quarantine zone. So they just did a mass killing of some of the people that were not infected. And then one of the like sickening parts of it is that they show like two skeletons, and one's a little bit smaller than the other one. And they do that sick transition where they transition over to who those things or who those skeletons were. Crazy, man. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing there. So we get to the scene where they're taking these people away, and then this is where we discover Bill and his situation. What'd you think of Bill and how he was living? And was it me, or did he look like this is the moment I've been waiting for? I already got a plan, dude. I'm going to Home Depot.
Well, I think it was more like, to me, it felt like a loner who truly now got to be alone. Like he was like, like I said earlier, he was that guy who was living in his mother's basement. He was foreseeing the end of the world and preparing for it. And, like he got proven right to a certain degree. Like, you see that I told you the world was going to end. This is what I've been preparing for. And he got to be by himself. And you see that, like, once he sees that they took the last person and they left, he had a field day. He was going to Home Depot. He was getting gas, hooking up his boat. Like it looked like he was enjoying himself and enjoying the life he thought he was about to have.
Right.
And which makes that line he says to Frank later in the movie even that much more emotional, in the sense that, like you said, I wasn't scared until you came. And it looked like he was looking forward to the life he was about to have until he met Frank. So, and to your point, it's funny seeing that person, because we always have the stereotype of the person that lives in their mom's basement and so forth. So to see that character become the person we're rooting for and hoping for and enjoying seeing that change and that transition to where he's opening himself up and enjoying this new life and everything with a person when he thought he was going to be alone for the rest of his life. It was like you said, there was so many layers to this episode in terms of showing hope and showing what the point of what they're all trying to do in surviving. I think so. I forgot who else I heard saying it, that this episode showed the difference between surviving and living. So to see a character who was a survivalist, and he is showing us how to live in an apocalypse. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, man. And I mean, and part of that surviving was he made a beeline for that fucking boat, dude.
Dude, straight for it.
And notice he didn't go for the regular gas, kid. He went for that 91, son.
I got pain.
Ultra premium.
Yeah, dude. I remember I had an Acura that only took ultra premium. I'm like, you fancy. Oh. The old ass car only taking ultra premium. I would put regular in that shit. The engine start popping. But what do you think of meeting Bill and his situation there with the, finally seeing he's by himself and that his plan is going to work?
It's funny is like when you think about the end of the world, you think about survivalists, there's a lot of panic, and this guy had a plan, and it's just the fact that when you're watching a show, there's a sense of believability. We're just like, no, that shit will crumble in like 2 seconds. And it was almost as if everything he planned, you're like, oh shit, that makes sense. Like if everyone left, I guess this works out really well that you went there. You got this gas. You're good on gas for a long time. You've got now all of these animals. You've got all this preserved food. You've got all these supplies. Home Depot's right there. Like there's a lot of things you could actually utilize. And he had a plan to utilize it, and he did it. And so even before we meet Frank, he's living at least 2 years before Frank.
He's eating well too. Shit.
And
he was having a rabbit.
And it's just like his whole plan was it just made sense and it worked, Right. And so to see like in an apocalypse, the smartest guy wins out.
Absolutely, man. And it's funny because it makes you think sometimes, man. I want to live in this beautiful world of my head, right? Where I trust everybody, where I trust if the government says they're here to save us and protect us, to jump in on this bus, and we're going to take you to the quarantine zone, that I think my dumb ass would jump in the bus and be like, bring my kids and my family around. I got to tell you, this shit made me switch, man. This one made me think like, dude, should I be this trusting with the government and with people saying they're going to help? Because again, you'll never really know until you're in that position. So I'm curious to know, fellas, after watching this episode, has it made you think more trusting the government or doing your own thing? Al, what would you do in that same situation?
Oh, I already started digging my bunker outside.
He started digging, dude.
Yeah, man, because he had everything, kid. Think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a little farm, like a little garden in the back. He had, gas. He had everything he needed.
Right.
So whereas opposed to you're going to another situation and you're hoping that they can provide for you.
Right. He's provided for himself.
Yeah. So he's making sure he provides for himself.
I got you.
And luckily he provided enough that, he was able to take on Frank. But in the end, when it comes down to a situation like this, like live or die, he was making sure he was able to make himself live and not need to rely on the generosity of somebody else. And like you find out, they didn't have enough. There was a serious repercussion if they didn't have enough for you.
Right.
So he lived a life where he didn't have to take that chance.
That's crazy. B, how about you, man? Had you had a mental switch on what you would do with that same situation?
Dude, that happened last episode. when she said bomb us, I was like, yeah, fuck it, no.
No. Yeah, man.
It was like, if anything, I can start bombing, fuck it.
Nah, no. I really am starting to think now, like, should I be more like those preppers and those survivalists and think outside the box? And it's crazy that a TV show made me think like that. I should have been thought like that, especially with COVID-19 in the beginning. Like, the world's fucking ended.
Should have been gotten toilet paper. God damn it.
This is it. Yeah, man. It definitely got me thinking, like, I think that in the future, right? I think that in the near future, let me put that better, I am going to start to get my own shit. I'm going to get a duffel bag and start putting some like one of those picket axes, some water bottles, batteries, a lantern. And I'm like, holy shit, can a TV show really change me into one of these people? A prepper? But the more I think about it, is like, how would I trust the government to just take care of me? Like, again, you could be in a situation and look, if COVID-19 doesn't change the way you think about how things happen, man, good for you. I would love to live in your world, man, but that should change the way I see the world, man. They shut the world down for a good, 7 months, 8 months, almost a year or two.
Actively, yeah.
Shit, things are still not the same. So yeah, if that could happen with that, can you imagine something else happening in this world, man? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the show. Forget my own questions about like, hey, what are you gonna do to survive? How can we link up?
Mistake number one.
Mistake number one. I was gonna be like, we cool, but I got a family too. So
what's in the bag? What's in the
bag? So let's get back into the story now. So then, we see Bill in his home, and he's basically living his life. He's actually fucking laughing at zombies blowing their heads off, like trying to walk into his property, which is like morbid and funny. Then with the sole chance that this one guy ends up falling inside of the trap, and he's not infected. He's not, after something. He's just legitly walking around looking for help, which is insane because I wouldn't trust that either at first. And I love that this show did that because I think in the beginning I was just like, something's up. This he's gonna put the one up on Bill, or something's gonna happen. And it's funny because they played with it in the episode too. There were scenes where like Bill was like looking at him weird, and there were scenes where like, oh shit, he's gonna kill Frank right now, or Bill's gonna kill Frank, or Frank's gonna kill Bill, and it just never happened. And it was just like, oh, okay. And then, that's when it completely caught me by shock when I'm like, take a bath, Bill, and I'm like, what just fucking happened?
Wait, are those glances sexy glances? What?
Yo, dude, first of all, when he goes to the piano, he's just like, this is not you. And then he pulls out like Pat Benatar. This is you. I'm like, I mean, it wasn't Pat Benatar, but I was like, is he calling them gay? I'm like,
wait. But what killed me was the guy says he's a little hungry, so he cooks him a whole meal. I'd have been like, yo, here's a sandwich.
Yeah,
dude, I love the plate turn. I love the plate turn.
Look at the plating.
Or when he poured the wine and he held it from the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great.
Well, to be real with you, I kind of thought something was up when he goes, not too many people can like pair a good wine with a type of like the cooking style that he did. And I was like, for a prepper, he's pretty like
Domesticated.
Yeah, he's like,
Domesticated.
he fancier than me. So like,
He went straight to
like,
the
so
wine
what's
store.
what's going on here? So anyway, but again, let's get to see what you guys thought. B, tell me your thoughts about Frank and Bill's first interaction and then everything that happened in that house.
It was great to meet Frank. I'll tell you that. after playing the game, it was great to meet Frank. So, but I would say like that whole thing. Having played the game, it was really interesting to see that whole dialogue come out. Because I'm like, wait, are we actually getting a Bill and Frank story? And then to get to the house, to have their interactions, I'm like, oh wow, this is like the great building of a friendship. And I was like, oh, this is a lot more than a friendship.
Yeah.
And so it was a really nice like attention to detail type of storytelling there, because you start picking up on it a little bit more, like when the stairs start to linger a little longer, and it was just like, oh, where are we going? Yeah. And then there was the go take a shower, Bill. And I was like, oh shit, there we go. Shower, I was like, there we go.
And it's funny because when I saw Frank, I was just like, where do I know this guy from? And I couldn't picture it until the end of the episode where I got to look it up on Google. And it happens to be an actor that Al actually likes from The White Lotus.
He's awesome.
Al tells me all the time.
Oh,
yeah.
Have you seen it?
I saw the first season, not the second season. But I remember Al telling me that in the first season, there's going to be a scene with him, and that he made Al like spit his water out.
Oh, kid, I know what scene you're talking about.
So, Al, what was your thought seeing Frank on there? Did you recognize him right away from The White Lotus?
Not until they sat down for dinner.
Okay.
Like hearing him talk from the hole and seeing that back and forth. At first, I was like, "Who's that? Why do I know him? Where do I know him from?"
Because he changed his accent. Yeah.
Yeah, but then when they sat at the table and they were going back and forth, I forgot what angle. I said, "Oh, that's butt cheek guy." I was like, "Oh, this guy's this like." Oh, I said, "Oh, I know where they're going." And like even before all the wine and everything, I said, "I know where they're going with this."
Right.
So, and he's a great for somebody who I just know from White Lotus.
Right.
He did such a good good job on that show that I was just anticipating a great time with this episode.
Yeah.
And just watching, and then I know the other guy is already from Parks and Recreation and other shows that he's been on. I already know he's good, but it was great to see them in a different dynamic.
Wow.
Even though they're both great comedic actors, it was good seeing them take on a more serious tone and so forth, but still have humor in there. So,
dude, were you not surprised with the way that I only know him as Ron,
Nick Offerman?
Like,
there you go.
Was I the only one that was shocked the way Nick Offerman played Bill in this? In this episode.
I mean, he's a great actor. Like I've seen him act in other things, but he's always been Ron. And this, I'm like, oh shit! Like this is great. He's good.
Yeah. He killed it in this episode as being this like just like a survivalist, a mean and tough guy. But then when it came to the right part, soft, sensitive, in love, and I'm like, dude, I believe this. I believe him, and I believe what I'm watching. And I'm like.
Dude, when his giggle came out, oh my god, the giggle!
Dude, when he had the strawberry,
yeah, I melted. I fucking melted because that's the Nick Offerman giggle, and it's so heartfelt.
I want to see the behind the scenes and see if that was like an impromptu reaction or if that was scripted.
Yeah,
because that was so appropriate for the way they were interacting in that scene. Because think about it, how many years had it been? And they've only been eating like whatever they had there to survive on. So imagine having something as simple as a strawberry for the first time.
You guys can't tell me nothing. Those two guys were in love. and acting in real life. Those two were in love, dude, because I believed it, dude.
Nick
It was
Offerman's
just
leaving his wife
crazy.
tonight.
Yo, dude, incredible. Dude, they killed that scene, man. But then it's again, we get to the, take a shower, Bill. But even before that, like you can see like almost the tears falling down Frank's face, realizing like, holy crap, you and I are alike. I see you, you see me, and we're in this tender moment. Like, oh my Lord, I was just like, wow. All right, cool. And then we get the scene where they're together in the bed, and then my favorite is they switch to 3 years later. Fucking Bill.
The fuck you mean you're painting the house?
For who? For what?
Mowing the
I'm tired of
grass,
your shit.
it's just us.
Yo, dude. And he was just like, with your dumb shit, like the military's out to get us. He goes, they are. No, the militaries are Nazis, right?
He goes, well, they weren't always.
Not before. Fantastic, dude. Oh man! And then you see that they're building out the town. They're fixing up for themselves, and they encase themselves with that fencing and stuff. And then it's fine. It's funny because then you find out that Frank actually was using the radio system to message Tess, and that's how Tess and Joel met them. And it's funny because I wonder if that's how they got those guns that they have, is because you can see that they were trading medicine, fruits, the plants, and things like that, from the quarantine to their home and back and forth. So it was just kind of great. I mean, in that kind of like going through the motions, I think the only funny thing was just like Joel talking to Bill's like, I get you and all this stuff, but take that gun out my face.
That was perfect.
Yeah, man. I mean, Al, what's your thoughts on the interaction, like as they were growing up now with but they've been together for years now.
Yeah, but I actually like that because it showed, like you said, I was thankful that they showed that kind of a relationship because even though it was two men, you saw the mirror of the relationship that Joel and Tess had. Because you had Joel as the protector, as the tough guy, as the enforcer, and Tess was like, more of the thing, not necessarily thinker, but she was more of the planner, the organizer,
willing to
and the
try
strategist,
right? Like they actually walked over to this place after meeting on a radio.
Yeah,
like Joel would never have done that.
No, and then you had the same situation with Frank and Bill. Bill was Joel, and Frank was Tess.
Right.
So it just goes to show, like, no matter what your idea of couples or partners, it's just people, in whatever form they come in. Just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. But that scene cracked me up because if you notice, Joel had one hand under the table the whole time. He was doing everything with one, and he had another hand on the table. So as much as Bill was showing his gun, Joel had his probably hidden under the table.
I said the same thing.
I never noticed that, man. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And B,
that dinner was cool.
Yeah, man, definitely, man. And B, how about you? Them growing up and you see what they're doing with the town there.
I thought it was cool to see the development of the town because you don't get that same development in the game, and so it was cool to see the whole, like, we're gonna have friends, Bill, and I've been using the radio system. I've been talking to people on the radio. They sound nice. She sounds great. And then to that be our introduction to how Joel actually knows Bill and Frank, and that setting up their whole system of the radio that goes back to episode 1 with the songs on the radio. I thought that was a great way of introducing that, where it wasn't just like Joel stumbled upon them kind of a thing. Like, no, this was a plan. They met. They're not really friends, but they're friends,
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and then the show goes back to doing what TV shows do with the subtle hints. Joel, of course, with the fucking bad news, like, hey, just be careful with people who come at night when you least expect it. Like, thanks, fucking the bad luck there. Put the bad juju on us. Now it's going to happen. And sure enough, we get that scene where these guys are trying to come in and take it over because, of course, you see something fortified, you want to know what's in there, you want to take advantage of it as well. And sure enough, man, Bill's plan works. I mean, he has these things that cause explosions and burning these people up. He necessarily didn't even have to go out there. Like,
he didn't even
could've
have
just
to
stayed
go
from his
out.
house.
He said it. He was like, "Oh, it'll take care of the rest." Like, dude, you didn't have to shoot anybody then. You got shot. That was your fault.
Yeah,
wait,
man.
and that was the part that bothered me. He's
Go
a
for it.
survivalist. He knows he's had all these guns. He's obviously knows how to use them. Why are you standing in the middle of the street upright?
It's called
he
love,
should-
Al. Love doesn't make
he
you
should
think.
be off somewhere behind cover.
Yes.
I mean, he had a rifle with a scope. He could have been picking them off from anywhere.
As they were burning up.
Yeah. Why are you standing in the middle of the street?
Yeah. To be real with you, like, again, with not knowing anything about the game, I'm like, oh, one of them is going to die right here. And sure enough, Bill gets shot. And I'm like, oh, dude, nope. That's not how it ends. So it's kind of crazy, man. Now, and it's funny because B, you played the game, so like after the movie, it felt like a movie. After the episode ended, I watched, of course, like the breakdowns from YouTube, with all these different, YouTubers do breakdowns, and I saw that the way that you guys who played the game met Frank was him hanging.
Him hanging.
You guys only saw legs and feet.
You saw his jeans.
And again, that's why the beauty of this adaptation of how they're doing this is just beautiful, because again, they get to go into the details. Apparently there was like subtle hints that Bill and Frank had a relationship in the game.
Yeah,
but they
he
never
was like,
really
he was my
explored
partner.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a
like,
letter.
To me, I was just like, you got to imagine me watching this and never playing the game. I'm like, damn, this is in the game. This is kind of rough. This is crazy.
Fuck,
like,
what
really?
was this level like?
Yeah. Make the dinner.
Turn the plate.
X for the freaking. Turn the plate. You gotta freaking, like, if you don't turn on Frank, you lose the board. I was like, what? I said, this is the game.
The wrong game. The wrong game.
So I was like, shit, I gotta play through this game then.
I gotta keep replaying that level till I get 100%.
Gotta get the trophy, man. The Sony trophies, brother.
That's just gotta pop up. Boop, in the corner, turned on Frank 100 times.
You made the rabbit just right. Bling. Frank took a shower. Oh, okay, let's get back to it, man. But then we get to the sadness of this thing, man. So apparently, Frank is taking medication because he's either I don't know if he knows he has cancer, just feels like he has cancer. And it's crazy. He's on a wheelchair, and he decides, Al, this is his last day, and all he wants for the last day is for everything that he wants, which is to go to the boutique. For him and Bill to wear whatever matching outfits that he wants them to wear, or outfits that he want them to wear. He wants a nice dinner, and then he wants the medication to be crushed and put into a wine glass.
Yeah.
And so tell me what you thought from there on, Al. What do you think of the scenes?
I mean, I thought it was very powerful, because you got to remember, these guys just lived 20 years together in an apocalypse. Like, basically the world ended around them. They
survived, dude.
Yeah, they survived with constant danger. Because you got to remember, I'm sure we saw clips, like we saw the separation, that we saw that group try to get in. We saw other things. But you got to figure that was just examples of everything they had been dealing with for those 20 years, and still survived and still had a life worth living,
right?
Despite everything that was going on around them. So for him to say, all right, that's it, I can't beat this, so I'm going out on my terms. And for him to say, listen, let's just have my last day be, let's go to the boutique, get outfits, get married, and then basically, euthanize me.
Right.
And you could almost kind of tell. I mean, I couldn't tell until he took that big gulp, but I wasn't surprised that he had done that to say, "No, we're going out together."
Yeah.
And that whole conversation that they had during that dinner,
Mm-hmm.
like given the episode and everything that they showed us about the two of them, it just made that ending that much more powerful and relatable. I mean, you could, like he said, he didn't have a life worth living or being afraid to lose until he found him.
Right.
So now to be losing him after 20 years of having him, I think Bill ended up having a better life after this all happened than he had before when everything was great.
Mm-hmm.
So, when he took that gulp, I was like, all right, yeah, I can relate and understand what he's doing.
Yeah, man. I mean, the part that broke me as far as like the tears were coming down was seeing Bill cry and hearing him cry to the fact that Frank wants to take his own life. I was heartbroken with that, man. But B, what'd you think of the scene in total? Everything that happened, the dinner and the date night or the date day. What'd you think of everything?
I thought it was beautiful. I actually
Right.
did. I thought it
Yeah.
was one of the greatest kind of like send-offs for characters I've ever seen. Just having that mutual last day of just love, like my way, I want it this way. And Bill was like, all right, if that's how you want it, I'm going to give it to you exactly that way. And for him to say, yeah, there's enough in this entire bottle to take down a whole horse, and I did this because I'd rather be with you than without you, And so,
Right.
like, that alone, I was like, what the fuck? She wouldn't do that for me.
I gotta
But
tell you, I didn't know Bill was gonna kill himself until when I finally realized it, and as dumb as it sounds, I didn't realize it until he gulped the wine glass. And Frank
Mhm.
looked at him because Frank just did the same thing. He just took the whole thing in one shot. When Brill did the whole thing in one shot, I was like, yo, dude, did he just do it to himself also? And then sure enough, he reveals that he put it inside the wine glass itself. Which means he double dosed Frank, dude. That's fucked up.
You get to die faster, motherfucker.
Seeing fucking clouds and shit, but yeah, man, broke me, man. That scene was tough, dude. And then what? They walked off to the bedroom by themselves, and that was pretty much it right there.
Yeah.
And then the interesting part is like, I'm thinking as we're watching this movie, like, oh, it felt like a movie. I'm just watching this thing. I'm like, this is crazy, right? And just when you think you can't cry anymore and it doesn't get worse, fucking Joel and Ellie come into the house and they find the note, or Ellie finds the note. And I found it kind of beautiful that right before Joel opens that door, the wind in the house, because the windows were open, caused the draft for the door to close, almost stopping Joel from going in there to see that. And
Yeah.
then, seeing the letter, that what was written, and I'm like, wow. And the hurt that Joel refuses to show when she was about to say you should live for someone else, and he was about to say Tess, he said, give me that letter.
Mhm.
I mean, crazy, man. What'd you think, B, of the ending over there?
Another beautiful scene. It's just it talks to who Joel is, and
Mm-hmm.
very representative of him in the game, And so like it goes to how
Mm-hmm.
Joel is presented as like this strong character who just has purpose. Like you given me something to do and I'm gonna do it because you told me to. And then it becomes like this is his growth to being a dad again, or a human in a sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
this was his. He heard from Tess saying, "You got to take care of her. You got to see this through." And now it's him
Right.
like believing it. Like, fuck, this is what Tess wanted, and I've got to do this for her. Because I should have been the one to protect her, and she wanted me to do this, so now I got to protect this girl.
Yeah. Yeah, man, and Al, you too. You watching this thing play out, and then I think it ends with one of the most beautiful endings because it symbolizes something to me. I don't know what it symbolizes for each one of you guys, but it ends with that note being read by Joel, reading, and us reading, actually, not Joel. Joel doesn't say it, but we read. He's talking about Tess, protecting
Mhm.
Tess, protecting the things that we can't protect, because He feels like that was Bill's role, was the protector of Frank. He's telling Joel now he has to be a protector.
Mhm.
And it ends, of course, with them finding the car. And you know what? We'll keep talking about the car stuff and everything too. But just that last shot, man, of the window watching the car drive off, man.
Mhm.
To me, it kind of felt like Frank and Bill were watching or looking out that window, man. That shit was incredible, man. I'm
Mhm.
getting chills right now talking about it. Fucking hairs are raising. Uh, yeah, Al, let me steal your thunder, brother. Go for
No,
it.
no, like you were saying, it just made it that much more impactful. Like that they had lived their lives. Bill had achieved his goal in protecting Frank until they both had passed.
Mhm.
So it was, to me, I felt like it was more of a symbol that, like you said, now it's Joel's job to now go off and protect this girl.
Mhm.
And even though the letter was addressing Tess, Joel is going to replace Tess and protecting her with replacing Elle.
Yeah, Al, I mean, even he started talking to Ellie different. Even after
Yeah,
that, he
yeah,
says like, you know what? These are the rules. This is what we're gonna do.
yeah. And even when they go in the car, you see him take on more of a protector role. Because I found it funny, like they go in the car, they're about to drive, and he's like, "All right, put your seatbelt on." And she's
Yeah.
looking at him like, "What the fuck's a seatbelt?" And then instead of explaining it, he does like the dad move. He just pulls the belt, buckles it in for her, and so forth. So,
Right.
like you see that role of protector and provider starting to kick in right as
Mhm.
soon as they just got into the truck.
Yeah. And Brandon, I feel like this is the part where we're gonna start to build now that Ellie Joel relationship that you've seen in the games. How you feel about where we're headed now?
I mean, the level that we're heading into for this episode is a really good like connection building episode for Joel and Ellie, and super
Mhm.
action packed. So I'm excited to not only see that level play out for real based on what the trailer showed. It looks really similar, but
Right.
this is also going to be like the kind of like the major connection building part for Joel and Ellie. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it, how they're going to put their take on it.
All right, man. Cool, man. And then lastly, before we end the night here in the podcast, there, just your thoughts again with like it almost feels like there was people who were saying like the one like again a couple of the negatives against the episode was these two characters have nothing to do with the show going forward or before it except for two lives in the universe. It was beautiful and it was played out, but do you think it was worth it to show all of this stuff?
Yeah,
Al, you saying yeah, go for it.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely, because like I said in the beginning, he basically them and their life showed us the difference between simply surviving everything that's going on right now
Hmm.
and living a life that's worth surviving for. So,
Right.
everything that we've usually seen in these zombie or apocalypse type movies is just everybody surviving,
Right.
making it from the one day to the next. But eventually you ask yourself, what's the whole point? If this is going to be your everyday, is just surviving from one day to the next, what's the point of that life?
Right.
And this episode showed you, like, even with all that shit going on around them, they had a life that basically they could have had even before this all happened.
Hmm.
They lived a life loving each other, providing each other in that house, just having a regular day to day, despite everything that was going on around them.
Yeah.
So it showed why everybody's fighting. What's the whole reason of trying to even find this cure if Al can provide it? It's because we all want that life again. So
Right.
to me, it felt like a good way of saying, all right, before we even get to the tough fights that are coming up, this is what they're all fighting for. So
Right.
let's
The
not
why.
forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I get some of that criticism of like, what was the purpose of the episode? They have nothing to do with the story going forward or after, especially because a lot of the people who played the game, their version of the game is that Bill moves forward with Joel and Ellie, and it's like they completely did something different. Listen, as an outsider who's never played the game, I understand it, but I think we're all the better for seeing this episode, honestly. The love that was shown and exactly what Al is saying, to see what it is that exactly we're fighting for, is to have that life, or to have something to look forward to try to get or attain again. It makes it all worth it. So yeah, man, it was beautiful, and I think it needed to be in there. B, how about yourself, man? Is the video game player of this, man, necessary, not necessary?
I mean, I'll be honest, when you play a video game, you got 36 to 72 hours worth of content. Most of it is running around, shooting some things, collecting some ammo, trying to get some stuff, and trying to squeeze every ounce of the game into a 10 to 12 episode series. It's not plausible, and
Right.
some things don't translate. And for me, I feel like what this show has done very well is give us perspective. It's from episode 1, that cold opening that had nothing to do with the video game, in itself. It gave us that foresight of this is what can happen in the world when you're not watching. It stopped the whole audience. And the second episode, you got the perspective of the researcher scientist and her view of what's going on and how that's going to affect her life, her family, her country, the world. And, and it was terrifying. And now in this episode, you have this perspective of this is the love that was formed during this whole thing, And so while, it took most of the hour, I think it was well worth it. For next week to be about now taking all of these things and now throwing it into the relationship of Joel and Ellie and having that build over the next 6-7 episodes. I think that everything has a point, and I think this is helping that perspective grow for us and viewing their relationship now.
Gotcha, man. Yeah, man. Fantastic stuff, man. And again, we can't say anything more positive about The Last of Us. These first 3 episodes have been incredible. Just fantastic television, fantastic writing, fantastic acting. Looking forward to episode 4. And listen, you come back with us next week. If you're not a subscriber or you don't have us as a podcast playlist where we come to you every week, hit the plus symbol on your podcast app or hit the subscribe button on YouTube. That way, when we do put out a podcast, you get that podcast right away. And you can listen to our take on episode 4 for next week's episode. And there may be a chance we see Cabin or Knock at the Cabin that's coming out. That's the new M. Night Shyamalan movie that's coming out. So we'll see if we get a chance to watch that this week. So listen, man. Beautiful episodes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would love to hear your guys' take. I mean, the people who've played the game, do you like what they did with the story? And for those who did not play the game, do you like the story and what they did with it this last episode? I'd love to know. Please put the comments on the below or email us at therealfanreview@gmail.com. So again, coming out of Long Island, New York, we are The Real Fan Review. Saying goodnight is my brother B.
Adios, everybody.
Our man in the chair, Al.
Have a good night, everybody.
And myself, Hob, saying, woo! Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you guys on the next podcast. Until next time.